Now, lest you think that means that all labor supply elasticities are small, there's another example which highlights that if you really have fundamental changes in the nature of wages, it can have big effects on labor supply. And that example is Social Security. That example is Social Security. So Social Security is a program in the US that provides income support for retired individuals. Indeed, it's the largest, it's what we call a social insurance program. It insures you against the risk of not being able to earn income anymore, okay? And it pays you a check once you retire. In fact, most countries have a Social Security program. I think there's about 180 of them around the world. It's the most popular government program in the world, is Social Security. And so I actually did a study with a colleague at the Kennedy School where we actually brought together teams of researchers from 11 different countries to compare their Social Security systems. We chose countries that were very nice and went to some very nice conferences out of this. And we compared their Social Security systems. And one thing we compared is we asked, what is the effective, what we called the implicit tax on work from Social Security? And what do I mean by implicit tax on work? What I mean, there's tax to finance Social Security, right? You get a FICA line. If you ever got a paycheck and you've seen FICA, that's Social Security. Okay? That's the tax that goes into the system that gives you money when you're retired. But what I'm talking about is not that. What I'm talking about is the fact that if you work more, you might give up some Social Security benefits. And that's a penalty to working more. So let me give you an example. In the US, you get Social Security till you die and it stops. So if you collect, and you can collect as early as age 62. Now let's say you're going to die at a certain date. Let's say you're going to die at 75. Okay? If you retire at 62, you get 13 years of Social Security benefits. If you retire at 63, you get 12 years of Social Security benefits. So by working that extra year, you have cost yourself a year of Social Security benefits. That's a tax, right? Effectively, your wage is low. That money you've earned that year, you've earned the money, but you've cost yourself the money you could have had by sitting around, right? So let's say your wage is $50,000 and Social Security is going to pay you $30,000. Well, if you work that year, yeah, you take home $50,000, but you could have taken home $30,000 by not working. So effectively, what did you take home on net? You only took home $20,000 from working. The opportunity cost of working was the $30,000 you foregoed by not retiring and taking Social Security. Okay? Now in the US, we understand this. So in the US, we have something called an actuarial adjustment. And the way the actuarial adjustment works is we say to you, look, if you decide to wait one more year to retire, we're going to give you one fewer year of Social Security, but when you get it, it's going to be 7% higher for every year you get it. So your trade-off is, yes, you'll forgo the $30,000 this year, but next year, instead of getting $30,000, you get $32,100. And every year thereafter, you get $32,100, 7% higher. And it works out for the typical person to be just about a fair deal. That basically, for the typical person, it's just, given typical life expectancy, it works out to be a pretty fair deal that if you delay Social Security for 1 year, you give up 1 year of benefits, but you get higher benefits thereafter, and they just about average out. So in the US, there's essentially no implicit tax on work. Your decision about whether to work 62 to 63 is not really affected by Social Security, because either way, you get the same amount by the time you die. Okay, do people understand that? That's pretty confusing, so there are questions about that. Once again, you get the same amount either way. You get one fewer year if you work one more year, but you get more thereafter. Well, in Europe, they don't have this actuarial adjustment. So let's take the case of the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, Social Security replaces 90% of your income. That means if you earned $50,000 or whatever euros, okay, when you retire, you get a check for 45,000 euros. And there's no actuarial adjustment. So if you're 60 years old, which is the early retirement age in the Netherlands, and you're thinking about working, what do you earn from that year of work? What's the true economic gain from working a year? Somebody raise their hand and tell me. What's the true economic gain? 5% of your wage. Literally, 10% of wage, I'm sorry. 10% of your wage. You literally only take home 10% of your wage. Why? Because you could have sat around and had 90% of your wage. right? It's the key concept of opportunity cost. So by working, you literally only take home 10% of your wage. But it's worse than that. Because if you work, you pay taxes, and if you don't work, you don't. And because their system's so generous, those taxes are taxed at a rate that's about 40%. So actually in the Netherlands, if you work out all the math, if you work, you take home 40% less than if you stay home. By staying home, you earn 40% more than you earn by working. Guess what? No one works. Okay? In the Netherlands, now there's some black market work under the table. But basically, the official labor market empties out at age 60. Because why not? So that's saying, you know, so far you think, well, taxes don't matter much. In a situation like this, where there's a ginormous tax that affects everyone, you all say, look, let's all quit at 60. We'll hang out together at the coffee shop. Okay? Basically, substitution effects will be really large because we're all going to leave together. So what that says is, yes, individual taxes might not have such large effects, or individual lottery winnings might not. But a big social institution, which suddenly massively penalizes work, can have a very big effect. And it does in these countries. And this is why these countries are facing enormous problems in the long run with their social security systems. Face enormous problems because in the long run, they're going to have to basically make these older people work, or they're going to run out of money. Okay? Questions about that?